The industrial mining vessel Horizon 7 lurched through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, its massive hull vibrating with the rhythmic pulse of quantum drive engines. Captain Michael Anderson stood on the bridge, his weathered hands gripping the command console, eyes fixed on the holographic display that mapped their current trajectory. Another routine resource extraction mission, or so they thought. Private First Class Emma Rodriguez, the ship's lead scanning technician, noticed the anomaly first. Her fingers danced across multiple screens, triangulating a strange energy signature that didn't match any known mineral or geological pattern. "Captain," she called out, her voice cutting through the low hum of ship's ambient noise. "I'm picking up something weird in asteroid CX-9847. Anderson moved closer, his cybernetic eye, a legacy of his decades in deep space exploration, zooming in on the data. The asteroid appeared unremarkable at first glance, a massive chunk of rock and metal tumbling through the void, barely 500 meters in diameter. But the energy readings told a different story. Quantum fluctuations danced across the scanning grid, creating patterns that seemed to defy the fundamental laws of physics. "Hold our current position," Anderson commanded, his voice a low, controlled growl that spoke of decades of space exploration. "Rodriguez, run a full spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about that rock." The next hour became a study in mounting tension. The scanning team worked feverishly, their initial confusion giving way to something closer to scientific excitement. Standard scanning protocols revealed nothing unusual, just another mineral-rich asteroid in humanity's expanding territorial claims. But the quantum sensors told a different story. "Sir," Rodriguez finally spoke, her voice trembling slightly, "the energy signature is alive, almost. It's not just reflecting our scans, it's responding to them." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. In the century since humanity had begun serious deep space exploration, they'd encountered numerous anomalies, but nothing quite like this. The artifact, if it could be called that, seemed to pulse with an intelligence that defied conventional understanding. Anderson activated the ship's specialized extraction module, a massive mechanical arm designed to carefully remove geological samples from asteroid surfaces. As the arm approached the specified coordinates, the entire ship seemed to hold its breath. Quantum interference patterns began to dance across every display, creating intricate, almost beautiful geometric patterns that no human had ever seen before. The moment of contact was nothing short of extraordinary. When the extraction arm touched the asteroid's surface, a burst of crystalline energy erupted, temporarily blinding the ship's optical sensors. For precisely 2.7 seconds, every electronic system on the Horizon 7 went completely dark. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the energy subsided, leaving behind a single, impossibly perfect crystalline object. "What the hell just happened?" Anderson muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. The crystal sat in the extraction chamber, defying every known principle of material science. It was approximately 20 centimeters long, with a complex geometric structure that seemed to shift and change depending on the angle of observation. Embedded within its structure were what appeared to be intricate data pathways, not circuits, exactly, but something far more advanced. Rodriguez ran initial spectral analysis, her hands shaking slightly. "Captain, this material. It doesn't exist in any known periodic table. The molecular structure is changing at the quantum level, almost like it's thinking." As if in response to her words, the crystal began to emit a soft, pulsing light. Holographic projections flickered around it, displaying fragments of unknown languages, mathematical equations that seemed to solve themselves, and glimpses of star systems that didn't match any known galactic charts. "Quarantine protocols," Anderson barked, his decades of space exploration kicking in. "Full containment. Nobody touches that thing until we know exactly what we're dealing with." Little did they know, the crystal's arrival would mark the beginning of humanity's most extraordinary chapter. The cosmic law that had protected Earth for millennia was about to be revealed, and with it, a terrifying truth about humanity's true place in the universe. The secure communication channel crackled with an intensity that suggested something far more serious than a routine transmission. Commander Jessica Rice watched the holographic display, her dark eyes narrowing as she observed the reactions of the alien diplomatic representatives. Something was terribly wrong. Within hours of the Horizon 7's discovery, the artifact had been transported to the most secure research facility in the solar system, a massive orbital complex nestled in the Lagrange point between Earth and the Moon. The facility, known officially as the Quantum Research and Xenorchaeological Center, had been prepared for extraordinary discoveries, but nothing could have prepared them for this. The first indication that something was amiss came from the Xylexian diplomatic corps. Ambassador Krelith, a silicon-based life form whose crystalline form typically maintained perfect emotional control, began to show signs of what could only be described as pure panic. Its translucent body flickered with erratic color patterns, a biological response equivalent to human hyperventilation. "The artifact cannot remain in human possession," Krelith transmitted, its communication matrix vibrating with an unprecedented level of emotional intensity. "You do not understand the implications. You cannot comprehend The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving behind only a burst of static and a sense of profound dread. Dr. Marcus Thompson, the lead xenolinguistic expert, worked frantically to decode the fragmented communications. "This isn't normal diplomatic tension," he muttered to Reyes. "These are the communication patterns of a species experiencing existential terror." Intercepted communications began to paint a bizarre picture. Dozens of alien civilizations, previously known for their calm and calculated approach to interstellar relations, were suddenly displaying signs of extreme anxiety. Some diplomatic channels went completely dark. Others sent increasingly desperate messages that bordered on the incomprehensible. The Quantum Research Center implemented maximum security protocols. The artifact remained contained in a quantum-locked chamber, surrounded by layers of energy dampeners and containment fields that would make a maximum security prison look like an open playground. Yet even these precautions seemed to do little to calm the growing storm of interstellar tension. "We're missing something," Rice told Thompson, reviewing the latest batch of intercepted communications. "These aren't just diplomatic warnings. This feels like genuine fear." A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, not the same scanning technician from the Horizon 7, but a brilliant xenorchaeological researcher, discovered a pattern in the fragmented alien communications. Hidden between the lines of diplomatic exchanges were references to something called the Primordial Covenant, a term that didn't exist in any known xenological database. The research team worked around the clock, piecing together fragments of information. Each new discovery only deepened the mystery. The artifact seemed to be more than just a technological object. It was a key to something far larger, far more significant than anyone had initially believed. Unexpected allies began to emerge, a communication from the reclusive quantum collective. A species known for their extreme isolationism arrived through an encrypted quantum channel. The message was brief, but laden with implication. "Protect the catalyst. Some truths are better left dormant." Military strategists began to mobilize. The United Earth Defense Command raised its alert status to unprecedented levels. Something was coming. Something that had multiple advanced civilizations on the brink of panic. Back in the secure research facility, the artifact continued to pulse with its strange, living energy. Holographic projections would occasionally flicker into existence, star charts of unknown galaxies, mathematical equations that seemed to solve themselves, fragments of languages that no human had ever heard before. "What are you trying to tell us?" Rice whispered, staring at the artifact. As if in response, the crystal's internal structure began to shift. For a brief moment, a series of coordinates appeared in the holographic display. Coordinates that seemed to point to a location deep in the unexplored regions of the Orion Arm. Something was coming, and humanity was about to be thrust into a cosmic conflict that had been brewing for millennia. The cosmic law that had protected Earth was about to be revealed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The research facility hummed with an electric tension that defied the usual sterility of scientific environments. Professor Ryan Thompson stood before a massive holographic display, his fingers tracing the complex data streams that emerged from the artifact. Each new analysis revealed another layer of an impossible story, a narrative that challenged everything humanity knew about its place in the universe. Initial quantum decryption had been challenging. The artifact's internal structure was less a technological device and more a living archive, a crystalline memory that seemed to reshape itself with each attempt at comprehension. What had started as a simple geological sample was rapidly becoming the most significant discovery in human history. "Look at this," Thompson called to his lead research partner, Dr. Alexandra Chen. A series of holographic projections flickered to life, displaying star systems long dead, civilizations reduced to quantum echoes. The images were brutal in their clarity. Entire planetary systems reduced to cosmic dust, with nothing left but faint radiation signatures and the memory of their final moments. Chen leaned closer, her augmented reality interface parsing the data in real time. "These aren't just historical records," she muttered. "These are battle logs. Consumption records." The term Void Devourers began to take shape, not just as a name, but as a conceptual terror that defied traditional understanding of cosmic conflict. They weren't simply a species or a technological threat. They were something else entirely. A quantum-level predatory force that consumed not just physical matter, but the very potential of civilization. Ancient communication logs began to emerge. Fragments of transmissions from civilizations that had long since been erased from existence told a terrifying story. The Void Devourers moved through space like a cosmic cancer, consuming not just planets and star systems, but the very potential of intelligent life. They didn't just destroy, they unmade. Thompson's hands shook as he processed the data. "It's worse than we thought," he said quietly. These civilizations weren't just destroyed. They were systematically erased. Every potential future, every possible advancement, consumed before it could even begin. The artifact revealed a pattern of cosmic horror that stretched back millions of years. Civilizations had tried everything: advanced technologies, quantum barriers, dimensional shields. Nothing had worked. The Void Devourers adapted, consumed, moved on. But something was different about the records related to Earth. Hidden deep within the artifact's quantum matrix were deliberate genetic markers, modifications that seemed to have been carefully inserted into human evolutionary potential thousands of years ago. It wasn't random. It was a deliberate, calculated intervention. They were preparing us, Chen realized, her voice a mix of scientific excitement and profound terror. Humanity wasn't an accident. We were a weapon being developed. The research team worked around the clock, each new discovery more shocking than the last. The genetic modifications weren't just random mutations. They were precise, calculated adjustments that enhanced human traits typically seen as weaknesses: emotional volatility, creative unpredictability, and almost irrational capacity for hope and resistance. Buried deep in the artifact's memory were records of previous attempts. Dozens of civilizations had been cultivated, modified, prepared, and each had failed. Humanity was apparently the latest, and potentially the last, attempt to create a species capable of resisting the Void Devourers. Thompson pulled up a comparative analysis that sent a chill through the research facility. Human genetic potential, when viewed through the lens of the artifact, looked like nothing so much as a carefully designed weapon. Emotional complexity, the ability to make intuitive leaps, a biological imperative to adapt and overcome. These weren't just traits. They were design specifications. "We were engineered," Chen said quietly, "not just as a species, as a response." As if in response to their discussion, the artifact pulsed. For a brief moment, a holographic projection showed something that looked like a battle, but not a battle as any human had ever conceived. It was a conflict that happened at the quantum level, where reality itself was the battlefield. The cosmic law protecting Earth was becoming clear. It wasn't protection. It was preparation. And humanity's true purpose was about to be revealed. The genetic research wing of the Quantum Research Center had become a fortress of secrecy. Dr. William Harrison stood before a massive holographic display, his fingers tracing the intricate genetic markers that defied every known principle of biological engineering. What had once been considered random mutations in human DNA were now revealing themselves as the most sophisticated biological weapon in cosmic history. "This is deliberate," Harrison muttered to his colleague, Dr. Samantha Rodriguez. "Every single mutation, every seemingly random genetic drift, it's all part of a design." The holographic display began to dissect human genetic code at a level never before possible. Chromosomal structures that had been considered junk DNA now pulsed with purpose. Hidden within the human genome were quantum entanglement markers, adaptive genetic switches, and neural pathway modifications that made human beings fundamentally different from any other known species. Rodriguez pulled up comparative genetic analyses from hundreds of alien species. "Look at this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Most species have a genetic structure that's relatively stable, predictable. But humans, we're a constant state of potential." The artifact continued to reveal its secrets. Each analysis showed that human genetic potential wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation. Emotional centers of the brain were linked to cognitive processing in ways that defied traditional evolutionary logic. The human capacity for empathy, for instance, wasn't a weakness. It was a sophisticated quantum interface mechanism. Deep within the genetic code, they discovered something extraordinary. Buried beneath layers of seemingly random genetic information were precise quantum-level instruction sets. These weren't just genetic markers. They were a complex biological programming language that could potentially rewrite the fundamental rules of genetic expression. "It's like we're a living, breathing quantum computer," Harrison explained during an ultra-secure briefing. But not just any computer. A computer designed to solve a problem so complex that traditional computational methods would fail completely. The military implications were staggering. Human adaptability, previously considered a soft survival trait, was now revealed as a weapon of cosmic significance. The ability to learn, to change, to overcome. These weren't just human characteristics. They were carefully engineered survival mechanisms. Psychological profiles extracted from the artifact told an even more complex story. Human emotional ranges, the capacity for love, rage, hope, despair, weren't random biological responses. They were sophisticated quantum interference mechanisms. Emotions weren't a bug in human programming. They were the primary feature. Dr. Rodriguez discovered something that sent shockwaves through the research community: human creativity. The ability to imagine things that don't yet exist was itself a form of quantum manipulation. The human brain didn't just process information. It could fundamentally reshape potential realities. "We're not just a species," Rodriguez told a closed-door meeting of top researchers and military strategists. "We're a living, breathing solution to a problem so massive that entire civilizations have been consumed trying to solve it." The artifact began to reveal the true scale of the genetic conspiracy. Humanity wasn't the first attempt. Thousands of civilizations had been engineered, modified, prepared, and each had failed. Humanity was the latest, and potentially the last, iteration of a cosmic survival mechanism. Archaeological evidence began to surface. Ancient cave paintings, previously considered primitive art, now revealed themselves as quantum communication attempts. Religious texts, mythological stories, human folklore, they were all encoded messages, fragments of a cosmic instruction set that had been hiding in plain sight. "Someone, or something, has been preparing us," Harrison concluded, studying the latest genetic analysis. "Not just for survival, for something far more significant." As if to punctuate his statement, the artifact pulsed. For a brief moment, a holographic projection showed something that looked like a genetic battlefield. Strands of DNA twisted and transformed, rewriting themselves in real time. It was evolution not as a slow, gradual process, but as an active, immediate response to an existential threat. The cosmic law protecting Earth was becoming clear. It wasn't protection. It was cultivation. Humanity was a weapon, and it was about to be activated. The moment of first contact arrived without warning. Admiral Samantha Cruz watched the tactical displays with a calm that belied the magnitude of what was unfolding. Quantum sensors across human-controlled space began to light up like a constellation of dying stars, each signal representing something beyond human comprehension. The Void Devourers didn't arrive. They emerged. It was less an invasion and more a fundamental rewriting of spatial reality. Massive quantum phase structures began to materialize, not ships in any conventional sense, but living geometries that defied physical laws. They weren't just entering space. They were becoming space. All fleet units, prepare quantum dispersal protocols. Cruz commanded, her voice steady despite the impossible scene unfolding before her. The human fleet had been prepared for this moment, though no one truly believed such preparation would matter. The first wave of encounter defied every military strategy ever conceived. Traditional weapons were less than useless. They were irrelevant. The Void Devourers consumed energy signatures, transformed matter, and reshaped reality with a casual indifference that made human technological achievements look like children's playground constructions. Captain Michael Anderson, now in command of the experimental quantum adaptive cruiser Prometheus, watched in real time as entire defensive formations simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not obliterated, simply removed from the fabric of reality as if they had never been. But something was different this time. Humanity responded in ways no previous civilization had managed. Where logic dictated surrender, human ships began to do the impossible. They didn't just fight. They adapted. Each lost ship transmitted its quantum signature. Each destroyed formation became a learning mechanism for the rest of the fleet. The Void Devourers encountered something they had never seen before, an opponent that didn't follow any predictable pattern of resistance. A human destroyer would be consumed, only to have its quantum signature immediately repurposed by nearby ships. Defensive formations shifted and changed with an organic unpredictability that seemed to physically pain the invading entities. Mathematical models of combat became useless. Human ships moved with an intuitive chaos that defied all known strategic principles. Their learning, Dr. Elena Rodriguez observed from the fleet's quantum research station, not just adapting, actually learning in real time. The genetic modifications buried deep in human DNA began to manifest in ways no one had predicted. Ships began to exhibit behaviors that bordered on the biological. Damage wasn't just repaired, it was transformed. Energy weapons became something more than simple destructive tools. They became communication devices, quantum manipulation interfaces. Admiral Cruz realized something profound. This wasn't a battle. It was a conversation happening at a level beyond human understanding. Quantum communication channels began to fill with something that wasn't quite language. Emotional signatures, mathematical constructs, potential realities, all blended into a communication method that the Void Devourers found incomprehensible. They expected a linear response, Rodriguez said, her voice filled with a mix of terror and excitement. But humans don't do linear. The battle, if it could be called a battle, spread across multiple star systems. Entire planetary systems became battlegrounds where reality itself was the primary weapon. Human ships moved with an almost living intelligence, transforming, shifting, becoming something that wasn't quite technology and wasn't quite organic life. For the first time in millions of years, the Void Devourers encountered a species that didn't just resist consumption, a species that could potentially reverse the process. Captain Anderson watched as the Prometheus began to do something impossible. The ship wasn't just fighting. It was communicating. Quantum entanglement fields began to pulse with complex emotional and mathematical signatures that seemed to literally reshape the fabric of space around the void devourers. "We're not just defending," Anderson whispered to himself. "We're responding." As the first wave of encounter began to subside, something became terrifyingly clear. Humanity wasn't just a potential weapon. They were a fundamental redesign of how conflict could exist. The cosmic law protecting Earth had been more than a shield. It had been an instruction manual for cosmic survival. And humanity was just beginning to read its first page. Dr. Emily Nakamura stood at the interface of humanity's most experimental psychological warfare system, her fingers dancing across quantum communication matrices that defied traditional understanding of conflict. The battle against the void devourers wasn't just happening in physical space. It was a war of consciousness, of potential, of fundamental reality interpretation. Emotional resonance at 78.6%, her primary assistant called out. The research facility, a massive orbital complex that looked more like a living organism than a traditional military installation, hummed with an electric intensity that bordered on sentience. The discovery had come almost by accident. Traditional military strategists had always viewed human emotions as a weakness. The quantum research team proved them catastrophically wrong. Emotions weren't a bug in human programming. They were the primary weapon. The void devourers consumed civilizations by reducing them to predictable patterns, mathematically perfect strategies, linear progression of conflict. But humans introduced something fundamentally terrifying: complete unpredictability. Nakamura pulled up holographic displays showing the most recent encounter analyses. Where alien civilizations had failed by applying perfect, logical strategies, humans did something impossible. They fought with hope, with rage, with love, with an emotional spectrum so complex it literally broke quantum computational models. Emotions are quantum communication devices, Nakamura explained during a classified briefing. Every feeling is a potential reality generator. Humans don't just react to reality. They fundamentally reshape it. The psychological warfare team developed strategies that would have been considered insane by any traditional military doctrine. They weren't just fighting. They were communicating on a level that transcended traditional understanding of conflict. A breakthrough came when they realized that human creativity, the ability to imagine things that don't yet exist, was itself a form of quantum manipulation. Depression could be a weapon. Joy could be a shield. Hope could literally reshape the fabric of potential realities. Captain Michael Anderson discovered this firsthand during the second wave of encounters. Human ships began to exhibit behaviors that defied all known technological principles. A destroyer might suddenly change its entire quantum signature based on a crew's collective emotional state. A research vessel could transform its defensive capabilities based on a sudden burst of collective creativity. The void devourers encountered something they had never seen before, an opponent that didn't just resist consumption, but could fundamentally rewrite the rules of engagement with pure emotional potential. Dr. Rodriguez developed what became known as the Potential Resonance Communication Protocol. It wasn't a language in any traditional sense. It was a complex quantum communication method that transmitted entire potential realities through emotional signatures. "We're not just sending information," Rodriguez explained. "We're sending possible futures." Entire battle formations began to move with an almost living intelligence. Ships would change course based on collective crew intuition. Defensive strategies emerged from emotional responses that no computational model could have predicted. The military began to recruit differently. Emotional intelligence became as critical as technological expertise. Artists, philosophers, musicians, they became as crucial to the war effort as traditional soldiers and scientists. Nakamura's team discovered something profound. The genetic modifications weren't just about survival. They were about creating a species that could fight a war on the most fundamental level of reality, the level of potential itself. "We're not just resisting," Nakamura told a closed-door meeting of top strategists. "We're negotiating the very nature of existence." The Void Devourers found themselves facing an opponent that didn't just resist, an opponent that could literally imagine its way out of consumption. Where previous civilizations had been reduced to mathematical equations, humans introduced something terrifyingly beautiful: uncertainty. As the psychological warfare intensified, something extraordinary began to happen. The conflict stopped being about destruction. It became a conversation happening at the quantum level of reality. Captain Anderson watched as the Prometheus began to do something impossible. The ship wasn't just fighting. It was communicating. Quantum entanglement fields pulsed with complex emotional signatures that seemed to literally reshape the fabric of space around the Void Devourers. The cosmic law protecting Earth had been more than a shield. It had been an instruction manual for cosmic survival. And humanity was writing its own chapter of the universe. The Quantum Research Facility became ground zero for the most significant scientific discovery in cosmic history. Professor Ryan Thompson stood before a holographic display that seemed to breathe with living information, watching as humanity's true potential began to unfold in ways no one could have predicted. The conflict with the Void Devourers had transformed from a simple battle to a fundamental challenge of galactic evolution. Humanity was no longer just fighting. They were rewriting the fundamental laws of cosmic interaction. Alien observation platforms, those that remained functional, watched in a mixture of terror and profound fascination. The human species was doing something impossible. Where every other civilization had been consumed, humans were not just resisting. They were fundamentally changing the nature of the conflict itself. Dr. Alexandra Chen discovered the first true breakthrough. The genetic modifications weren't just a defensive mechanism. They were a complete reimagining of how intelligent life could interact with the fundamental fabric of reality. "We're not a weapon," Chen explained during an ultra-secure briefing. "We're a reset button for cosmic evolution." The quantum communication matrices developed by human researchers began to reveal something extraordinary. The Void Devourers weren't just a species or a technological threat. They were a cosmic-level systemic response, a method of galactic pruning that had been operating for millions of years, and humanity was the first species to truly challenge that system. Each human interaction with the Void Devourers introduced something fundamentally terrifying to the cosmic predators: uncertainty. Where previous civilizations had been reduced to predictable mathematical equations, humans introduced complete unpredictability. Entire star systems became laboratories of cosmic transformation. Human ships moved with an intelligence that bordered on the living, transforming defensive strategies into communication attempts. The conflict stopped being about destruction and became a conversation happening at the quantum level of reality. Admiral Samantha Cruz watched as human fleet formations began to do something unprecedented. Instead of simply fighting, they began to interface with the Void Devourers' quantum structures. Communication happened through emotional signatures, mathematical constructs, and potential realities that blended into a language beyond traditional understanding. The genetic modifications buried deep in human DNA began to manifest in ways no one had predicted. Humans weren't just adapting to the conflict. They were fundamentally reshaping the nature of cosmic interaction. Dr. Elena Rodriguez discovered something that sent shockwaves through the scientific community: the human capacity for empathy, previously considered a soft survival trait, was actually a sophisticated quantum communication mechanism. Emotions weren't just responses. They were fundamental tools of cosmic interaction. "We're not fighting," Rodriguez explained during a classified briefing. "We're negotiating the very nature of existence." Alien civilizations that had long been silent began to emerge. Some watched in terror. Others approached with a mixture of hope and profound respect. Humanity was doing something that no species had ever managed, challenging a cosmic system that had consumed civilizations for millions of years. The quantum research teams began to understand the true nature of the cosmic law that had protected Earth. It wasn't just a shield. It was an instruction manual for cosmic survival, a carefully designed mechanism to create a species capable of fundamentally challenging the most established systems of galactic evolution. Captain Michael Anderson watched from the bridge of the Prometheus as human ships began to do something extraordinary. They weren't just fighting the Void Devourers. They were attempting to communicate with them on a level that transcended traditional understanding of conflict. Quantum communication channels filled with something that wasn't quite language. Emotional signatures, mathematical constructs, potential realities, all blended into a communication method that challenged the fundamental understanding of how intelligent life could interact. The conflict transformed from a battle to a negotiation. Humanity introduced something the Void Devourers had never encountered: the possibility of transformation instead of consumption. "We're not just a species," Thompson said quietly, watching the holographic displays. "We're a cosmic reset mechanism." As the revelation unfolded, something became terrifyingly clear. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were rewriting the fundamental laws of cosmic interaction. The cosmic law protecting Earth had been more than a shield. It had been the first step in a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent life could exist in the universe, and humanity was just beginning to understand its true potential. The final confrontation defied every known principle of conflict, scientific understanding, and cosmic interaction. Admiral Samantha Cruz stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching as humanity prepared to do something no civilization had ever attempted: not just resist the Void Devourers, but fundamentally transform them. Quantum communication matrices lit up with a complexity that bordered on living consciousness. Human ships moved with an intelligence that was no longer purely technological. They had become something else: living interfaces of potential, communication devices that challenged the very fundamental understanding of existence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had spent years preparing for this moment. The genetic modifications that had been carefully inserted into human DNA were more than just a defensive mechanism. They were a complete reimagining of how intelligent life could interact with the most fundamental predatory force in the universe. "We're not going to destroy them," Rodriguez explained to the assembled scientific and military leadership. "We're going to understand them." The Void Devourers found themselves facing an opponent that didn't just resist consumption. An opponent that could literally imagine its way into a different form of existence. Where previous civilizations had been reduced to mathematical equations, humans introduced something terrifyingly beautiful: the possibility of transformation. Captain Michael Anderson watched as the Prometheus began to do something impossible. The ship wasn't just fighting. It was communicating on a level that transcended traditional understanding of conflict. Quantum entanglement fields pulsed with complex emotional and mathematical signatures that seemed to literally reshape the fabric of space around the Void Devourers. The conflict became a conversation happening at the quantum level of reality. Emotional signatures, mathematical constructs, and potential realities blended into a language that challenged everything known about cosmic interaction. Dr. Alexandra Chen discovered the breakthrough that would change everything. The Void Devourers weren't a species in any traditional sense. They were a cosmic system, a method of galactic pruning that had operated for millions of years, and humanity had found a way to communicate with that system. "They're not alive in the way we understand life," Chen explained during a critical moment of the confrontation. "They're a fundamental cosmic response, a system of galactic evolution that consumes to create space for new potential." Humanity introduced something the Void Devourers had never encountered: empathy as a fundamental force of cosmic interaction. Where previous civilizations had tried to fight or resist, humans began to understand, to communicate, to offer an alternative to the endless cycle of consumption. The research teams had prepared for this moment. Quantum communication protocols developed over decades of careful study became living interfaces of potential. Human ships moved with an intelligence that was part technological, part emotional, part something entirely new. Admiral Cruz watched as human fleet formations began to do something unprecedented. Instead of fighting, they began to interface with the Void Devourers' quantum structures. Communication happened through a language that blended emotional signatures, mathematical constructs, and potential realities. The genetic modifications buried deep in human DNA began to manifest in ways no one had predicted. Humans weren't just adapting to the conflict. They were fundamentally reshaping the nature of cosmic interaction. Professor Ryan Thompson discovered the final piece of the puzzle. The cosmic law protecting Earth wasn't just a shield. It was a carefully designed mechanism to create a species capable of fundamentally challenging the most established systems of galactic evolution. "We're not destroying," Thompson said quietly, watching the holographic displays. "We're offering an alternative." The Void Devourers found themselves facing a fundamental challenge to their entire existence. Humanity introduced the possibility of transformation instead of consumption. The conflict became a negotiation happening at the most fundamental level of reality. As the final moments of the confrontation unfolded, something extraordinary happened. The quantum structures of the Void Devourers began to change, not through destruction, but through understanding. Humanity offered a different path, a way of existing that wasn't defined by endless consumption. Dr. Rodriguez watched in awe as the massive quantum structures began to reshape themselves. They weren't being destroyed. They were being transformed. "We're rewriting the fundamental laws of cosmic interaction," she whispered. The cosmic law that had protected Earth for millennia revealed its true purpose. It wasn't just a shield. It was the first step in a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent life could exist in the universe. Humanity had become more than a species. They had become a cosmic reset mechanism. And the universe would never be the same again.